Okay, ready to go? Okay, we're ready. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the City of Universal City, Texas. It is Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. I'll call this meeting to order now at 6 p.m. and call for quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Bug.
Mr. Buck?
He has to mute it.
You gotta unmute yourself, Stephen.
Press the space bar.
He only has to do this.
Oh.
Here but not here. Good evening.
Councilmember Goldsby.
Here and here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
Present.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Quorum is present, we shall proceed. Now, let me go through the procedure this evening. The purpose of the meeting is a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2022-23 budget and a proposed 2022 tax rate to support the fiscal year 22-23 budget. In the procedure this evening is we'll get a presentation from city staff, and then I'll open up the public hearing for you all to comment. And when the public hearing closes, then council has an opportunity to again discuss the matter with staff. There is no vote this evening. This is strictly a public hearing. The vote will be next Tuesday night. So, but by law, by regulation, this is why we're having this meeting tonight, so everyone has a chance to give their opinion on what they feel about the tax rate. We discussed it obviously at our council meeting 2 weeks ago, and this is what has been published. And so what you're going to do is probably get to see, if you were here for the budget presentations at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago, you're going to get some very similar to what you had before. But I think it's important for everybody. Now this is the opportunity for the public chance to comment on this proposed budget and the tax rate. So I'll turn it over to our city manager. We'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. One thing I did want to point out is that if there's anyone in the audience and they didn't print this out, we do have printed copies in the foyer if you'd like to follow along, understanding that sometimes the screens are very hard to read and it's a lot of data. So yes, Mayor, as you mentioned, this is the same presentation that we went through with council about a month ago and then a couple of weeks ago. And so switching a few roles, so Mateo is going to be presenting the budget this evening, and we'll go through that, and then we'll have the public hearing. I'm assuming, Kristen, did you already pick up the sign-in sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I
Yeah, I appreciate it. And so we'll go through that proposed budget for everyone's information. When we get to September 6th, that is when the City Council will actually be doing its voting, which is a week from today. And then the second vote on the tax rate will be September 20th. From there, we'll just go ahead and head into the presentation, if that's all right with you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let me just say one thing really quick before we proceed on. I want to mention to you all, and I think many of you probably knew Wes Becken, who had been the mayor here for 4 terms. Wes passed away about almost 2 weeks ago in Georgia. Was a wonderful person in this community. Was very supportive of us and served as mayor for 4 terms. And his wife Shirley, I had a couple of good conversations with her, and it was a blessing. It was a blessing. He had Parkinson's disease, and that's really sad, debilitating disease. And the staff, the council sent her some flowers to the home there, and she called me again this afternoon and said she was very appreciative of that. So, more about that again on Tuesday's meeting, but I just wanted to be aware that we lost a real superstar in Universal City that served us faithfully for 4 terms as our mayor. Okay, press on.
So to start off, we're going to go through the general fund revenue, summary and expenditures. For the general fund, the total revenue is $22.7 million as forecasted, and that is $4.4 million above the fiscal year 2022 budget. Ad valorem has increased by $619,000. Sales tax revenue increased by $3.1 million, with a total revenue increase of $4.4 million from the fiscal year 2022 budget. General fund revenues is displayed on this slide. The total is going to be $22.7 million, with about 80% of that coming from tax revenue. The other is broken up as you can see here: licenses, permit fees 8%, fines 5%, interest revenue is 3%, and donations and contributions sitting at 5%, with grants at 0%, but there's some there. The personnel budget has an increase of $877,000. That is due to the 5% COLA increase increase that has been proposed. Employee retirement has increased to 19.10%, and health insurance has increased to 15% from the 2022 original budget. Expenditures, as detailed in this slide, about 15% of these are made up by the fire department, with 20% coming from the police department, with a total of 22.7 million in expenditures. The major changes in the administration budget is the payroll, which will be across the board because of the 5% COLA increase at $560,000. The proposed tuition reimbursement has increased the allowances $25,000, and insurance and bonds has increased by $1 million, with the HSA contributions by $7,500 for a total on contract services of $1 million, and that $7,500 has been taken from all the departments and is now being pulled from the administration budget. For development services, as indicated, payroll increased about $700,000, support services $198,000, contract services $150,000, and supplies and materials $10,000, with a real property and equipment increase of $46,000. Finance has a payroll increase of $492,000, travel about $7,000, training $10,000, with a total of $17,000, and real property and equipment increased $75,000. Municipal court, payroll increased to $145,000. Allowances, including travel and training, $1,800. Supplies and materials for their office and operating supplies, $1,000. And real property and equipment, which is the court security, of $95,000. Juvenile case management as well, increase in the payroll of $67,000, with allowances of $1,000. General services. Once again, we have payroll increase of about $812,000, utilities $230,000, which includes the electricity expense. Contract services $225,000, which includes maintenance of streets, maintenance of grounds, and the other contract services that apply. Supplies and materials $34,000, that's the gasoline expense, and real property and equipment $172,000, which is lease purchasing of equipment. Parks and recreation, a payroll increase of $314,000. Contract services, $213,000, which is maintenance of buildings and grounds, once again, special event expenditures. And supplies and materials, $10,000 for janitorial supplies, with the real property and equipment increase of $494,000 for vehicles and park improvements. Police, payroll increase of $3.9 million. Uniform allowance increase in the allowances line of $20,000, and contract services increase of $65,000. With supplies and material increasing about $50,000. For the fire department, payroll increase of $2.3 million. Licenses and certifications line is $32,000. Memberships and subscriptions for communications $24,000. Contract services $490,000, which include the maintenance of vehicles, buildings, emergency ambulances, and technology services. Supplies and materials $66,000, and other equipment down here at $185,000. Vehicle and equipment maintenance, membership and subscriptions increased $8,900, technology services $5,000, and operating supplies $23,000. Animal shelter, payroll increase of $435,000, electricity $34,000, supplies and materials $19,000, real property and equipment for buildings and structures $70,000. The library, $274,000 for payroll, memberships and subscriptions $9,000, electricity expense $16,000, supplies and materials $52,000 to include operating supplies, books and periodicals, and audiovisual materials, and the real property and equipment line for furniture and fixtures of $5,000 increase. We're going to move on to the debt service summary. Debt service. Total tax revenue of $1.6 million, with a total debt service of $1.6 million, and the revenue is, the excess revenue is indicated here as $8,500. Capital projects. Total capital project revenue is $5.2 million. Total capital project expenditure is $5.2 million, so basically wash there. Utility fund revenue, Utility fund revenue is forecasted here, 10.6 million, and as presented, 559,000 below the 2022 budget. There's a net increase of 132,000 to the personnel budget from the 2022 original budget. That of course includes, as I mentioned earlier, the employee retirement increase to 19.10% and one additional sewer employee. Utility fund revenues, the total amount indicated here is going to be 10.6 million. Approximately 84% of the utility fund revenues generated by water and sewer. The total utility fund expenditures by department, 10.6 million here. We have water development at 26%, administration at 3%, public works at 14%, capital projects at 16%, debt service at 13%, and sewer development at 28%. Public works payroll, which once again includes the 5% COLA increase, 521,000. Support services for engineering and planning, 310,000. Insurance and bonds, 171,000. Utility administration, 133,000 to include technology services and bank fees. Water development, payroll increase of 722,000. Uniform allowance of 4,950. Electricity expense of 348,000. A water tank repair, 250,000. Supplies and materials, 178,000 to include operating supplies and gasoline expense. Real property and equipment, 203,000 to include vehicles and office equipment. Sewer development, payroll increase of 219,000. Training, 6,500. Contract services, 2.5 million to include the Sarah sewage treatment and CCMA sewage treatment, with supplies and materials for gasoline expense of 21,000. Debt service, the total debt service we have here is 1.1 million. Total proposed new debt would be 330,000. The total utility fund debt service without the proposed new debt, 1.1 million. As stated above, total utility fund debt service with the proposed new debt would be 1.4 million. Capital improvements, the total capital improvements is 1.6 million. Going into stormwater. Total stormwater revenue is 1.5 million. This is, as presented, $774,000 above the 2022 budget. Total stormwater revenue, the 1.5 million stormwater revenue, majority of it is coming from stormwater revenue, 52%. Stormwater payroll, 188,000. Contract services to include technology and engineering services, 217,000. Capital projects, the total stormwater capital improvements, 977,000. And from there we move on to the golf course. Golf course revenue, 4.3 million. This is 1.8 million above the 2022 budget. Golf course revenue, approximately 39% of the golf course revenue generated by general and admin, and 37% by the course and grounds, you can see here. Golf course expenditures by department, broken up here, total expenditures of 4.3 million. General and admin make about 44% of that, the course and grounds at 27%. General and admin for the golf course, communications at 10,000, that's for memberships and subscriptions. Supplies and materials, 12,000. Operating supplies and janitorial supplies included there. Total debt service, 491,000. And total administrative transfer, 302,000. And a total transfer out of 650,000. Golf course grounds payroll, 763,000. Equipment and lease, 100,000. Ground maintenance to include gas, oil, and seed, 52,000. Carts, contract services to include equipment lease interest, 155,000. The pro shop payroll increase of 188,000. With the merchandise, 40,000. The range operating supplies, 39,000. food and beverage. Training, $6,500. Tax and licenses, $2,700. And linens, $25,000. Advertising on the marketing side of the golf course, $110,000.
Okay, that's the proposed budget for 22-23. And what we'll do now, and the discussion this time when we open the public hearing is directly related to the budget only. Tax rate is the next public hearing that we'll hold. So this particular one, I'll go ahead. It is now 6:16 in the evening, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And there's one person that has signed up, but anyone can speak if they want to at any time during this public hearing. The individual that has signed up to speak is Ms. Kim Aguilar.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kim Engelhardt. I live at 736 Garden Meadow Drive. This year's budget contains a 5% cost of living increase for all employees. Ms. Turner has stressed the importance of making this level across the board, even though this would mean that those employees on the lower end of the pay scale would receive an addition of only $35 a week, approximately, while those on the higher end would receive approximately $125 a week. All of us have a sense of our own worth in the workplace. Many of us have experienced a disappointment when after years of hard work to get a decent salary, new employees are brought on making almost as much as us. We also believe that when we have a job where we had to work for educational credentials or a skilled trade license, these jobs should be paid more than entry-level positions. We carry around in our heads an unwritten pecking order on job classifications. So Ms. Turner's explanation that it is critical to maintain the current salary gap between employees and that giving a higher percentage COLA to some would compromise that gap is perfectly valid. But what if our current salary classification system is not valid? In response to an open records request, I was told that the City of Universal City has never completed a salary compensation study, and there are no records that exist as to how the current classification plan was created. What if it was valid at one time, but no longer is? Market conditions determine wages, and some positions are higher in demand now than they once were. To be fair to our employees, it only makes sense that we would have a current and valid plan in place. We are approaching the end of a budget year. We will likely have a budgetary surplus. If not this year, then maybe next. I am asking that all or some of a surplus be used in one or two ways. First, as an extra one-time bonus to employees in an amount inversely related to their salaries. Secondly, to conduct a salary classification and compensation study. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Okay, again, this is your chance to discuss the budget. Would anyone else like to address council? Mr. Rubel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. There are a couple things about the budget that are intriguing. First of all, the general fund is showing an increase of $3.1 million for this fiscal year. I just remind council that we're only asking for $30 million for bond issues for streets, and that there should be some recognition that some of that money could eventually go to infrastructure repair. I'd like to see an initiative by council to that end. Number two, slide number 6, general fund. It says that there's an increase in salaries of $877,000 from the quote-unquote original 2020 budget. So essentially, if you break that down to $50,000 increments, that's 17 new personnel at $50,000 or 17.5 new police officers for that salary increase alone. So basically, whether salary increases or personnel, I think this council should decide. Slide number seven, general fund expenditure slides by department shows again promotions and development of $100,000. I've clearly shown the council that this fund has been used as padding by previous councils to the point where essentially there are only 2 years of exception. The median use of that fund was somewhere in the order of $2,600 since 2006, and less than that if you go back back further. There's 2-year exceptions that were a total of $458,000, I think. And I've asked through open records for a response to why that was such a high increase compared to the median of $2,500 to $2,600. And as of this point in time, I haven't got a clear response to that. So in any case, it's an indication that there's some places in the budget still could be cut. And I provided the council a yearly response from the annual audits that show that 40% of the time, 0% of that budgeted value has been used for the intended purpose. Golf, as essentially, I did not know until reviewing the budget that the golf course also received golf course marketing from the hotel transfer fund of $110,000, and the golf course revenues by venue taxes now up to $1.5 million, which is 7% of the entire budget of the city. Administration essentially is getting a 51% increase from the 2021 level, which is the only thing I have accurate audits. Finance, a 31% increase from the 2021 level. A concern that I'm going to harmonize a little bit with the prior speaker, and that is I'm very concerned with the path that the city has taking with regard to partialism for employees' employment for the future. I think that partialism based on honing an individual will ultimately result in exclusionary hiring processes and prejudicial hiring by the city. Essentially, it's very unclear to me how you're going to avoid that in the future.
Mr. Rubin, try.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Okay, well, I thank you very much for your attention. With one parting deal, the city golf course has cost the average taxpayer, our taxpayers, $15 million to date, just in sales tax, revenue, general fund, and capital expenses, which means that we have subsidized every round of golf at approximately 30%, actually 28%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rubin. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir, ma'am, come on up.
Can I just speak from here? I have a loud voice.
We record this, ma'am, so I think it'd be better if you came up here, please. And you could actually do it right there if you wish.
We'll just put a microphone right here so you don't.
Well, thank you, Candy. I appreciate it. Hi. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for letting me be here. I am very new to all this. I have not studied all these pages and pages and pages of paper. I have, however, studied my own personal budget. I know there's income. I know there's outgo. I know there's income. I know there's outgo. And if one or the other is not in balance, there's a problem. I don't know these numbers. I'm sure people have spent countless hours. By the way, I was watching the clock, and at 3 minutes, I heard the fans go off. I didn't know if at 3 minutes the air conditioning went off. So I was getting a little worried there. I guess just in general, I would like this group to consider, and I understand that probably a lot of this is already a done deal. Next year, maybe I'll get involved earlier. I think that I was always told if you come with a concern, you should come with a solution. The solution I have is if there's not enough coming in and too much going out, one of those has to change. I would say the too much going out would be the part that is potentially most reasonable.
If we were to say, and again, I am pulling these numbers out of the sky, every department had a 10% decrease, and let the people in the department decide where that decrease would come. Because I understand in my own budget, there's the absolutely musts, there's the fluff, and there's the deadwood. And if I don't look at it periodically, that deadwood just stays dead. It's money I didn't have to spend but did for whatever reason. The fluff, we all know what fluff is. And then the must-haves are the must-haves. But I would like to challenge this group to have each department look and see, and if 10% is too lofty a goal, let's make it 8% to start with. What cuts could be made? I understand people need salaries. I understand things cost money. But I think if our income and our outgo are at war with one another, I think we should look at the outgo. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Would you give me your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
Do I have to know? So much for those new stoplights, you know. It's Janice Hughes, 170 Clear Oak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Universal City.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Anyone else? Again, this is specifically on the budget. We'll get the tax rate in a minute. Okay. All right. Let me close the public hearing then at 6:26. Yeah, 6:26. All right. And we'll go then to our next item, which is a public hearing on the proposed 2022 tax rate to support the fiscal year 2022-2023 city budget. So, Ms. Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me turn this back on. Oh, I apologize. Since you're going to be talking. So the other half of the puzzle. As you know, we've had some discussion at the previous council meeting when we took the record vote on what the particular tax rate was going to be. So I want to start out by stating tonight for everybody in the room that there are certain numbers by law that we are required to report this evening, and that is the no new tax rate, which used to be called the effective tax rate for those who've been here for a long time. We did a median, and then we did the voter-approved rate, which is the tax rate by 3.5% increase, which is state laws. And then as the staff, we provided option 4, more commonly known in the past years as the Goolsbee rate, because we know Mr. Goolsbee likes to add his own rates in at the end. So there was some discussion last time on the 2022 tax calculation sheet that is provided by the appraisal district. So after a lot of research and a lot of discussion with staff, some of the council members, outside entities and independent consultants, and with the appraisal district themselves, the calculations on the tax rate sheet that they provided us are correct. Before you go, let me explain. By law, they are required to follow a certain formula, and that is by state law. So their tax rate calculations in the sheet that they gave us are correct according to the way the state law requires them to do it. I say that, however, comma, in having some discussions, thank you, Mr. Vaughn and the mayor, who have met with Jessica and I. We've gone over and agreed upon some numbers that we'll be presenting at the next council meeting. We believe that there is some room to move the tax rate. So without getting into a lot of detail this evening, we're going to be presenting what we're required to present by law, which is what's posted in the newspaper, and that is the no new revenue rate, the median rate, the voter approved rate, and the tax roll rate that you took last time. When we get to the September 6th meeting, we'll be having a slightly different discussion and providing some alternative tax rates for you to consider. So I'll start with that. And then I do want to point out that there has been some discussion on the 2022 tax rates that the staff needs to go back and change those numbers. Understand, they're not the staff's numbers. It's the tax rate that the appraisal district is required to present us based on the formula that the state has given them. There is no changing those numbers. They're set in stone. What we have the ability to do is to make some modifications on our own on how we would like our tax rate to look and the funding that it would be bringing in. And that's the discussion that we're going to have on September 6th. So with that, unless the mayor or somebody has something else we'd like to cite, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, and she's going to be reporting the data that is on the Truth in Taxation website It's on the city's website, on the finance page, and it's also been posted in the newspaper, in particular, the San Antonio Express News.
Okay, well, Jessica will report that, and just for your edification, this is what appeared in the newspaper. It was actually both different sides, like that. And it's the voter approval tax rate, which is the minimum, the maximum you can go above without an election, was 0.700454 per $100. The no new revenue rate was 0.673209, and the proposed tax rate is 0.656205, which is below the no new revenue rate. So that's what we're going to be briefed on this evening. Just want you to be aware of that. When they're finished, I'll open up the public hearing for discussion. And we close the public hearing, and the council will have a chance to discuss it. Again, this is a non-voting evening. Next Tuesday night is the night that we'll vote on. Yes, Jessica, you're on.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a 2022 certified values, certified total taxable value of 1.4 million, under ARB review of 1.4 billion with under ARB review of 121 million. Total properties of 7,248 with new property values of 43.7 million and an average tax value of 295,000. Okay, fiscal year 22 property tax rate is 0.589398 with M&O at 0.488861 with debt service at 0.100537. The fiscal year 23 proposed tax rate, as the mayor mentioned, is 0.656205 with M&O of 0.544577 and debt service rate of 0.111628. The total estimated property tax revenue based on these numbers is 9.8 million with M&O at 8.2 million and INS of 1.6 million. As mentioned previously, revenues help support operational expenses, police and fire department resources such as vehicles and equipment, library resources, parks improvements, road improvements, administrative expenses such as employee salaries, health benefits, and liability insurance.
Okay, I'll add one other thing like that. If there ever would be any adjustments to what has already been published and approved by the council initially, the rate would never go above that 0.65. Never would go above it. It could potentially go below it. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that. So let me go ahead and open up the public hearing now at 6:34. And we have some individuals that signed up this evening, so I'll call you up. And I'll call up the ones that have already signed up, ma'am, and then you're welcome to come on up again. We're certainly, this is your chance. That's why we're glad you're here this evening. So first person that did sign up is Ms. Janice Hughes.
Surprise.
Oh, it's you. Well, hi, Ms. Hughes.
I told you I was really brand new at this. I got here at 10 to 5 because I didn't want to miss anything. What I missed was just some of the bugs that were out in the parking lot because I hadn't closed my window. I didn't even realize, to show you how new I am, I will be honest, I didn't know this was two separate meetings. But to me, they all kind of go together in my head. Remember, there's income and there's outgo. With the taxing, I think this is a particularly difficult time to be asking people to pay more taxes. We've just been hit with all the property increases, we've been hit with inflation, we've been hit with this, we've been hit with that. And the people that I've talked to in the Universal City area don't want to pay more taxes. Nobody ever does, but I think this is a particularly difficult time. All these numbers, if you get me 4 places to the left of the decimal, my brain is kind of going, what? So I don't know all the numbers. I've never even looked at all the numbers. But as far as the income and the outgo, just a small example. I was in the post office the other day. I had gotten one of those certified letters because the grass was 9.5 inches instead of 8 or whatever it was supposed to be in the alley that nobody goes in anymore. Because that's okay. I like my new trash cans. I do. I recycle a bunch because I just get out of my car and throw the stuff in the recycle bin. But the gentleman said to me, yeah, I've had 70 or 80 of these Certified mail costs $7.50 cents. That's over $500. The last go-round, we seem to have made do with a brightly colored yellow paper put on our door with a piece of blue tape. We got the same results. People still mowed their lawns, people still trimmed things, people did whatever. I'm just saying, I think in a budget this huge, there's a lot of room to cut out the deadwood and some of the fluff and still have enough income to take care of the necessities. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thanks for your participation. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Seriously, you really are. Okay, next individual sent is Ms. Ashton Bowman.
Ashton Bowman, 12807 El Dorado. I'm against the 0.65 tax rate, but I am for your $9.85 million rate for revenue. However, since the city voted to adopt a balanced budget, which is awesome, and thank you, council, so much for voting that way, I expect the city to get their $9.85 million and no more. I hope you guys will adopt the lowest rate possible to get what you need and no more to help the citizens out. Inflation has hit everyone really hard, as it's already been said. So even though it's just an extra $35 here or an extra $17 there, that amount means a lot to some people. And it all stacks up, especially when groceries and gas are at an all-time high. I believe with times as hard as they are, the city should have some empathy. You can get the budget you need, but you should balance the budget even if that means when you get the corrected numbers, it's a better, lower tax rate for the citizens. I wholeheartedly believe the city and city council should be more frugal right now for their citizens. The budget is covered. The city's getting exactly what they asked for. No one's disputing that. What I'm really urging everyone on council is to stick with the balanced budget and the $9.85 million, even if the rates come back lower. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, next person signed up, Ms. Kim Engelhardt.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I live at 736 Garden Meadow Drive. My name is Kim Engelhardt. I don't have any letters after my name. I don't have any cred amongst the financial professionals. But what I do have is street cred. On April 14th, Bear County issued a notice stating, although not initially included in the 2022 Notice of Appraised Value, it has been determined the freeze should have been implemented with 2021 serving as the base year. Until I directed them to the law, they're going to raise our taxes one more time. But yeah, Bear County's been doing this for years. They know what they're doing. And here we are again. We all agree on the end objective. We are trying to set a tax rate that will result in a total revenue of $9.851 million. Not more, not less. But for reasons I don't understand, we are letting Bear County do our calculations rather than doing them ourselves. If Bear County is so sure, again, that it is correct, let them sign on page 9 rather than requiring Ms. Moore to stake her professional reputation on data generated by somebody else. It is important, obviously, to get this right. We don't want the revenues to come up short, neither do we want to take money from our residents, more money from our residents than we genuinely need to meet our goal of $9.85 million. People are struggling to get by, and we need to recognize this. I have computed the tax rate using the worksheet. I have computed it using the formula provided by the certified tax rolls. And both ways, it appears that to give us revenues to support the budget of $9.85 million, the tax rate needs to be somewhere around 53 or 54 cents per hundred rather than 65 cents. Ballpark figures, of course, because crunching numbers really is not my forte. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Appreciate it very much. Mr. Rule, you signed up here too. Did you want to discuss the tax rate at all?
No.
That's okay. I mean, I know you signed up on both of
Mr.
these.
Mayor, just that the reminder is that the median income for the people of Universal City is $64,000. A retired teacher at 20 years of service is getting $20,100. A new teacher is getting $55,000. And basically, us 11% of our population is below the poverty level, according to census statistics.
Thank you, Mr. Rule. Anyone else like to address council? Okay. Thank you very much for your participation, everybody. It is now 6:40. I'll call the public hearing over, and now we'll open it up for discussion among council. Any specific discussion items you would like to bring up based on what was presented and what you heard from our public hearings? Yes.
Make a comment. Thank you guys for meeting with me today to go over the tax rate. And just to share with everybody, we're all I think on the same page that we're trying to balance the budget, the $9 million of revenue. So it's just a matter of figuring out the rate that's going to give us that. And if you look at the public notice, the actual amount of tax that's being increased this year is not that much. It's only about a 4 or 5% increase in total property taxes from last year to this year that we're trying to establish. And most of that's being paid by new property in the city. So the actual tax impact on people should be negligible if we can get this figured out correctly. And so I think we're all working towards the same results to get a very minimal impact if we can get the tax rate to give us the revenue that we've tried to budget. So that's all I'm going to say.
Bill, appreciate that. Yes, Mr. Major.
Yeah, I wouldn't add much to that other than looking forward to see what those numbers are going to come out to on the 6th. And, you know, I, for one, am with the public is making sure that we balance our budget and we get no more and we get no less. But, you know, based on what we have tonight, there's not a lot of discussion as far as what that number is going to be until the 6th. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Nell.
Just wondering, how accurate is your forecast of being $4.4 million above the budget?
Can you tell me what page you're talking about, Mr. Nell?
3.
Are you talking about the tax rate or the budget?
So, talking about
Oh, he's on the budget.
2023 general fund revenue forecast that presented is $4.4 million for the FY 2022 budget.
So
Let's
that
go back to the number.
so the increase is not primarily, and I hope people don't think this, from an increase in tax revenue, but we also went back and made adjustments to the sales tax, where the greatest portion of that is coming from. The sales tax and the venue sales tax.
Thank you.
Marginally, that is only from ad valorem.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I will say that there's been enormous amount of time spent, and those of you who have been attending the meetings understand that staff they start way back in the early spring, or sometimes even earlier than that, putting together their numbers, knowing what the potential of the new revenue rate would be, and they try to build that budget based on, and it's all you know, it's all something that it's not a guess. It's what their best estimate is of what it's going to be. Okay, and then we had a workshop, a nice long workshop where we discussed it in detail. Many of you were there. Thank you for coming. And what happened after that? The result is they made a presentation, and by law we had to declare basically what our potential tax rate was going to be and what the revenues were going to come in, and that's why it was published in the Express News, as many other cities had done, because San Antonio Express News is their newspaper that they have to publish it in by law. We had been going in the Herald newspaper, which is very unfortunately no longer distributed for the most part in Universal City. So we're with the Express News at this time, and we're going to be looking for another source. So tonight's presentation was the opportunity for citizens to tell us how they feel about this, because it's been totally published, and that's why by law we have to publish it. Okay, And your council has really looked deliberately at this for a long, long time and deliberated it, not only deliberately looking, but deliberating it as well. We've had some really great discussions amongst our members of the council. And I'll ask Mr. Buck, did you want to add anything at all? Since you're a little bit remote tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If everybody can hear me okay, thank you very much. There is something I'd like to add. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Jessica Mateo for the time that you guys have spent with me going over the budget as well and listening to my concerns about whether or not the numbers that were published by Bear County are in fact correct. Given that now you have some new numbers to present to us on the 6th of September, I'll withhold any judgment until we've had a chance to hear what those numbers are, but I'm very hopeful that they will be lower than what they are right now. So again, to everybody that listened to me and tolerated my telephone calls, thank you very much, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me dial in remotely.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. All right, anyone else there?
Yeah, I do. It's very frustrating to see the Bear County numbers back and forth and all that. And this is one of the first years we've actually had that sort of thing happen. I feel that
It is the first ever, yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's because we get the emails and the phone calls and the what's going on. And I'm sorry, I play with crayons. I don't play with calculators all day, so that's very hard for me to answer those questions. I want everybody to know that we are just as frustrated as they are with the crazy number situation. And Councilmember Vaughn, I will be looking forward to hearing your comments on the 6th. I do appreciate your input on how things go on a budgetary situation.
So you want handouts? I'll bring handouts.
Yeah, I love your handouts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Obviously, it's been a healthy and stressful exchange of discussions amongst council members and amongst staff and amongst you in the audience. And we are pledged to make sure that we try to give you by far the best budget that we can to provide the services that you need in this city. And you have elected us to help make those decisions for you. And I hope that you have that trust in us that we will make the right decisions. So I look forward to seeing many of you on Tuesday evening then, as we have the first reading of the adopted budget and the tax rate to support that budget. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind everybody that on the regular council meeting, Tuesday, September 6th, the meeting is at 6:30, not 6 o'clock.
This was just a special meeting set up at 6 o'clock this evening. Okay. Everyone, thank you. Thank you very much for attending. We appreciate your input and hope to see you all on Tuesday evening as we make that major decision on behalf of you all for our city for the next fiscal year. Thank you very much for coming.
6:30.